The Education Secretary, Nadeem Zahawi, has expressed concern about schools banning meat from their lunch menus. It comes after parents at Barrowford Primary School in Lancashire were told meat was banned from their children's canteen. Parental choice and the health of children, two concerns, but the school's head teacher said she had made the decision in order to, quote, stop climate change, and cited the carbon footprint caused by the livestock industry. It's a claim many farming and rural campaign groups dispute, including my next guest. The Chief Executive of the Countryside Alliance is Tim Bonner, who joins us now. Tim Bonner, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. What do you say to this head teacher who said no more meat on the school menu? In fact, don't even bring meat in your packed lunches and your lunch boxes because I want to help the environment?
Well, frankly, it's ridiculous, Colin, to suggest that you can fly an avocado from California or Mexico, which has been grown in fairly unsustainable circumstances anyway, and that's going to have a lower carbon footprint than a lamb that's grown across the road from your school, which is grass-fed, which is on a farm, which has got a huge range of biodiversity. I mean, it is complete nonsense. And our concern is that underlying this isn't just a discussion about carbon and global warming. It's actually an ideological attack on livestock farming, on farming as we know it, and on eating meat as a whole. So we don't think that schools should be involved in this sort of campaigning, and we think the Education Secretary was absolutely right to say that they should allow children choice.
How much of a worry is it that I interview farmers fairly regularly on my programme. It feels to a lot of people are losing the argument that this head teacher speaks to a growing mindset, which is not only is global warming settled science, the role of agriculture within climate change is settled science. Now, you and I both know that's rubbish, that actually there's lots of data there, whether it's the amount of methane that's produced that disappears within a decade, not so much of a problem, whether it's the fixing of carbon in pasture, in grassland, and oh boy, isn't this country brilliant at producing grass, and sometimes rather than growing crops, that's what we do best, and when you've got grass, you grow animals on it that then fertilise the soil, on and on and on. Lots of arguments, very positive for meat, but not being made.
Well, I think the one thing that is being made is that people love it. And demand for meat isn't dropping. In fact, the opposite. And then during lockdown, we saw huge demand for meat across the board. But it's about quality, and it's about how that meat's produced. And it's perfectly possible to produce meat in a sustainable way. We see it all over Britain. We see great systems based on grass. But it's also, we need to be honest about this, it's also perfectly possible to have livestock systems which aren't particularly sustainable, which are questionable. But exactly the same can be said of growing all sorts of crops as well, which it may be vegan, but if you fly over the south of Spain and see the acres of glass houses and the use of pesticides and fertilisers which are used to produce those products, it's just as unsustainable. So we should be looking at quality, we should be thinking about what we eat, and we should be sourcing stuff sustainably, not suggesting, which is entirely wrong, that the whole livestock farming industry is somehow unsustainable, and somehow that eating meat isn't compatible with having an ethical approach to food and to the way we treat the planet.
And just one final brief point, Tim Bonner. When you've got a school like this, I mean, there's a democratic principle at stake, it seems to me, here. I mean, this is a head teacher almost treating her school like a personal fiefdom for her political pet projects. But I shouldn't think she's alone in that. And to some degree, that's, they answer to a local authority or to parent governors. There are some democratic checks and balances in place. What do you think went wrong at this particular institution?
Well, I think there is, and we must be honest about it. There is, as you mentioned earlier, there is a perception among some people, and promoted by a lot of people, that meat is bad. And I'm not to judge, because I don't know whether the head teacher in this situation honestly believes that this is a way of tackling global warming, or whether she has an ideological approach, which means that she's quite keen to see pupils not eating meat anyway. But in either case, there is a fundamental issue about choice and about freedom and about the ability to do that. And I found it quite extraordinary, and I'm sure the parents at the school found it quite extraordinary as well. There's not only Was she saying that we're not going to serve this stuff on our menu, but you cannot bring it in? You cannot bring meat into this school and eat it in your packed lunch, which is it's something that I think politicians should be addressing. And we've suggested to the Education Secretary that there's actually proper guidance, rather than just agreeing with us, that he might be able to put that in writing, in guidance for the future.
Tim Bonner, got to leave it there. Really appreciate your time. Thanks very much indeed.